I'm just here to beg you to watch the news. It's my job. You know, what these guys are saying, it's so true. When you look at the PUT levels, and that's an acronym for people using their televisions, every single month in the last, I don't know, several years for me in this business, you can watch it every month. There are declines. Right now, if you look at the ratings in March for every TV station in the market, every single one is down. And most of them by double digits in adult 25-54. So that's why you see a lot of attempts by us in news to differentiate ourselves, to give you the news of the day, but to also try to get you to watch us, because it's just not that easy anymore.
Let's be clear, too. There's the great argument and the great frustration for those of us in the business, particularly for those of us who built product who had to try to get rating points, is that TV viewing is still measured by Nielsen, and the sample size in this market is 800.
Yeah.
800 households. 800 households.
So our careers, the people on TV, you see that we all live and die by 800 households. Well, it's interesting. Most of my career I've been in the later time slots with 10 p.m. Here for 9 p.m., you know, the task there is you're up against primetime TV. So you're up against Grey's Anatomy or whatever the big show is of the week. And that's hard. That's hard to get people not to watch it. I think on some levels, people are delaying watching prime programming now so they can watch it when it's more convenient. I think what helps at 9 o'clock is that a lot of people now, morning TV has just taken off in the last 10 years. A lot more people are watching morning news than they ever were before. And so from my standpoint, people are turning off the TV thinking, I'll watch whatever the primetime program is later. I'll catch the news real quick at 9 o'clock, and then I'll go to bed and get up watching it again. So there's an advantage and a disadvantage. You know, it's much easier to compete at 10 o'clock head-to-head with other news channels than it is to compete against, you know, the most popular shows on TV.
But the available audience is bigger at 9.
Yeah, it's much bigger.
So you have the opportunity.
Right.
And look, I think ultimately it's interesting to sort of just think about how quickly the pace of change is occurring now in the business. I mean, when I got here in 2000, this just didn't feel very long ago. But we had just launched the website at thedenverchannel.com in 1999, the year before I got here. And when I left at the end of 14, we were barely even talking about the website anymore. It was all about your phone. It was all about mobile. And it was all about this idea now where I used to think of it as kind of a stream where back in the good old days, it would pool up at 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock, and people would gather and you'd find out what happened today in the news, but those dams have all broken. So now it's about how do you interject yourself in people's lives daily. And they're mainly doing it through this. You are, I'm sure you are, right? That's the real challenge. But the one advantage I think local TV stations have, and it may give you some idea in terms of why you hear about it all the time, there's two really drivers to me. And that is the local weather, right? Even though you can get the information, there is some validation that local folks can give you about it, right? Particularly when it's going on. Mm-hmm. And breaking news. The ability to say, this is happening in your community right now. And the advantage for television is we'll actually show you. Those are the two real drivers, I think, that there's still real advantage that local TV still has. But it's about the only two I can come up with now.
Well, I think I'm still old-fashioned. I mean, look, I started my career in 1983 at KUSA. It was KBTV at the time, driving down from Boulder 4 nights a week to do Ed Sardella's opinion poll. I'd get a phone book, pick a number, dial it up. When somebody answered, I would punch a little thing, and Ed would ask you the opinion poll question. So it's come a long way, certainly, from the technology. Believe me.
I was a weatherman. I used to put magnets on the
Yeah.
1982.
But where I think I'm old-fashioned is I believe that the television and I believe this strongly, is still part of it's part of our fabric and our culture. And for me, part of that is, I was in Washington, D.C. on 9/11. I was working in Oklahoma City when the Murrah building was bombed by Timothy McVeigh. And if ever you see people gather together, whether as families or friends or people who work together, and they're glued to one thing, it's the TV. So to Byron's point, that's breaking news. The Super Bowl, I don't think there's anything else 20 million people do for 4 hours at the exact same time in this country, or however many it is. I don't know what it is that on the last Super Bowl. Should have been everybody. It was Broncos. The whole damn country should have been watching. But, so I still see us, while that is going to kill our business to a degree, and it really has. That's why you see the viewers not there, because why do I need to watch the news? Everything that is going on, I got my phone and I looked up the Denver Post or whatever TV station or the New York Times, and I'm up on what's going on. I can go to bed now. So for us, we have to find compelling reasons for you to watch. And that's, if it's not breaking news or it's not the weather, to me it's the people and having an impact on your community. And I'm very, very, very big on that. I think we have a huge medium that still has a huge reach and voice, and we should use it for good, and I really do believe that. We can make people's lives better. We can help people who have been through the unimaginable worst things in their lives. We can reach out to you and get you to help them. So I've gone from the purist in journalism to the, this medium, let's use it differently. It's different. The times are different. So that's why I still love this medium, because I do think that it's part of your ritual, I would guess, almost every single day with most of you. And it is a coming together point to help people and to see what's going on in this world. I'm a Pollyanna.
With the fracturing of news and where you get it, how is this going to affect on-air people then in the future?
They don't make as much anymore, I can tell you that.
Yeah, they definitely don't make that much money anymore.
Well, give us a little crystal ball. Where's it going?
I think right now it's really interesting. All of the big media companies are trying to figure that out. I think they're trying to figure out desperately what's the next thing we should do. I think we find ourselves, I think as broadcasters, years ago we kind of mocked newspapers of, you're old-fashioned now, you're going to die, you're gone. Now, I'm one of the few people who still reads the Denver Post tactilely with the paper every morning. I think a lot of people are saying that we're going to be a thing of the past. We just have to keep fighting. I don't know that any of us know in the crystal ball. But if you look at newspapers, and I believe this, they went from they're going to die, and to a large degree they did. The advertising money dried up. There was way too many other places for people to spend their money. But if you look at them now, they took a page that we've got to take as broadcasters. If you go onto the New York Times website during the Iran war, I found it fascinating that they would have a picture of a soldier, and you could hit on any one of those pixels, and it would bring up every story about the soldier who died in Iraq. His family, everything that had ever been done on him, what he had accomplished, where he'd gone to school, anything like that. You take the bridge accident in Minneapolis, I can't remember when that happened, but you could click on a picture of the bridge with all the cars that were on the bridge or fell off the bridge when the accident happened, and you could click on every car, and you could find every story about who was in the car, their rehabilitation, did they live, did they die, their funeral, all of that. So the newspapers figured it out. I don't know how many people are that interactive with the newspaper websites, but enough to keep them going. So to answer your question, we've got to figure out the pixels now, and I don't know that any of us have the magic potion.
The real issue comes down to the business side of it as well. Mm-hmm. When you start breaking out revenue for a television station nowadays, the bulk of the revenue still comes from the TV product. It's 70 to 80%. Retransmission fees, the fees now we get from cable companies and satellite companies for them to air the stations, is getting larger and larger. We used to give it away for free. We used to always talk about broadcasting was a business to see students, and they surely indicated it then. But the fact is that we're finally getting paid there. So you see, retrans dollars are now making up 10 to 12% of revenue. but the digital dollar is still only making 5 to 8% of the general television station's revenue. And that's the challenge for not only the broadcasters, but for Greg Moore and those folks at the Denver Post. Greg just resigned, but the fact is that the digital dollars won't make up these old analog TV dollars that we have. There's just not enough revenue on it. So then you have to figure out, what does that workflow look like? What are the resources to that look like? Because I believe TV stations will earn their brands, particularly news stations, will earn their brands in the digital space moving forward. It'll be that ability to connect to you on your phone or in some other device. Who knows what it looks like in 5 years, right? It's already here. Next thing it'll be here. Who knows? But it's to connect with you that way. The challenge will be is, how in the world can you build a business model that supports the kind of content factory that you have to give you the kind of content that's relevant to you? That's the challenge.
Can you explain the difference between analog dollars and digital dollars?
Well, I'm just saying the fact of the matter is I can charge a couple $1,000s for a TV spot.
Okay.
A couple $1,000s in digital is going to get you a whole ton. That's a pretty decent buy on digital. The fact is for me to sell.
Is it a different type of program? I don't
No,
understand
it's well, I'm using an old term versus we're all digital now. Everything's digital
Yeah.
now. But the fact of the matter is I can charge so much more for ad rates for television than I charge for digital ad rates on my website or my
basically
mobile
your
app.
website versus your TV station.
You
In
can
other
spend $20 for an ad on the web, but you're going to have to pay $2,000 to get it in a 10 o'clock newscast.
And like I said, this is look, it's what happened to the Denver Post. It's the challenge they had when they lost all the classified money and the want ad money, and then they had to start living on their own money as it relates to what they could generate out of the content they built. It shrunk. That's a newsroom that used to have over 300 people at one point in its life. It's got about 125 now.